Hello, contextual studies people. So, it's week 15, the last week before we break up for Christmas. We're still working on this beautiful mock exam. We've got 1 hour left of your prep, and then we're moving on to your 3 hours for making your notes. And they're those two sides of A4 notes that we can take into the exam with us. So, today we'll do an hour finishing up our research, then I'll give you a time check, and we'll do an hour for starting our notes. You'll then have a further 2 hours in your solar session this week to finish your notes, making 3 hours in total. And then you'll need to email your notes to me after your solar session this week. And I've put instructions on the solar of the email address you need to send it to and what you need to send to me. So that's mirroring exactly what we'll do in the real exam, because we'll have to keep these two sides of A4 notes so that we scan them in and they're ready to send to the examiner if they ask for them. We also need to keep all of the research that you've done so far. So all the things that you've been doing over the last 12 hours, when we do the real exam, we'll keep all of that as well in case they really think that you've been cheating, which you won't have been, so it's all okay, but we'll keep it just in case, okay? So today we need to be finishing up our research. I'm just going to give you a really short recap on what needs to happen with your notes. So the exam notes, you're only allowed two sides of A4, so either two separate sheets on one side or one sheet with it printed on the back and front. You're allowed to make bullet points, and there's a list in the exam notes of the kind of things that you're allowed to include, and I've included it here in red. I've just highlighted it. So at the side here in the blue, I've given you a recap on what those things mean. So the first one is contextual information. This is secondary research related to the theme and related to your artist. Remember, I don't care when they're born, I don't care where they went to school. I care about the theme, and I care about any relevant details like that the artist had a difficult background or that the artist was from a certain culture. All of that stuff matters. All the superfluous stuff about what colour the hair is doesn't matter. Quotes. So this might be if you've got a quote from the artist when they were talking about a particular piece of work. It might be a quote from somebody else who said, "This work's weird." It can be a quote from anybody, but if you're going to put the quote in, you need to make sure you're saying who said it, when they said it, and where you found this. The second set of information that you can give is ideas and opinions. So this might be things that you want to remember to say. So things that you've thought about the artwork or thought about the theme that you want to remember to include. Analysis of images. So you might have looked at 5, 10, 15 images of your artist. We don't know until the exam day which artwork you're going to get. And so it might be worth doing some summary notes for a range of artworks. So you could put artwork number one, you could put the title of it, you could make sure that you remember which one it is when you're writing about it. You don't have to put the whole caption because the whole caption will be on the exam paper. So for your notes about visual analysis, there might be key things that you remember about that artwork. So it might be about a composition, it might be about a certain colour palette that's used, but remember these are only bullet points, so it just needs to be a few key words. You can't write full sentences. These are just reminders, things that you need to remember to include when you're in the exam. You need to understand the artwork, you need to understand the theme. You don't know which artwork you're going to get, you don't know which other artist you're going to get until the day, and so we can't plan all of that. All we can do is make sure that we've understood the things that we can. Okay? It also says that you can add references to specific sources. So if you have got a quote from somebody, you can put in a full Harvard reference for a bibliography. The last thing that we stipulated is the size of font. So we can have up to a size 10. We can't have anything smaller than that. So we can do a size 12 font or a size 16 font, but we can't do a size 8 because that's saying that you're going to put too much information on your page. They've also given us two things that we can't include. The first one is continuous prose. That means full sentences. We can't have full sentences and paragraphs on there that you can just copy and paste into your exam. and we also can't have pre-prepared answers. So we can't make it look like bullet points, but it actually be our whole essay with 5 bullet points of visual analysis and 5 bullet points to remember to compare. It just needs to be reminders, keywords, maybe a list of the things that you need to visually analyse. So you might want to go back to all of the PowerPoints that we did from September until October, where we highlighted all the formal elements or all the things we need to include when we look at visual communication. Your bullet points might be things like that, reminders of things that you need to do when you're in the exam. Okay? So remember, your notes need to help you. You need to think about what the exam questions will be, because there is no point in making notes that aren't going to be useful to you. So in the green box on this slide, I've highlighted what the task is and what you're going to be assessed on. So the task is to visually analyse the 2 works that you will have. That's why I've suggested maybe your bullet points might want to be the things that we need to do when we're visually analysing. It might be a list of all the things to remind you about composition, about tone, about scale, all of the things that you need to talk about. The second thing that you'll do is compare the 2 artworks in relation to the theme, and you'll need to understand the theme for that. And so some of your notes might be about the theme and things that you want to remember about it. Make sure that you understand it. When we've been doing all of the practice pieces of written work, the thing I keep telling you all is remember to relate everything to the theme. So make sure that your notes highlight and clarify for you what the theme is, so that you really go in there understanding what you're trying to write about. And then the third thing in your task is justifying which piece most relates to the theme and why. That's maybe not something you can prepare for because we don't know what the artworks are going to be, but you need to be thinking about that when you're making your notes. Okay? And then the things we're going to be assessed on is how well you understand the artworks and how well you understand what they mean in relation to the theme. So we can't just visually analyse the artworks and talk about nothing to do with the theme. Our visual analysis needs to be relevant and needs to relate to the theme. We'll also be assessed on how well we visually analyse, so that we have hit all of those bullet points in the PowerPoints that I went through, that we have looked at formal elements, that we have looked at visual communication, we've looked at symbolism, we've looked at imagery, all of those things we've done a million times. We're going to be tested in this exam on whether we can do them. So we need to make sure that we've got notes that remind us to do those things, because I know that you can all do it and you can all do it really well. We just sometimes forget. Okay. We also need to show that we understand contextual factors related to the artist. So, is there something going on at the time period when that artwork was made? Is there something going on in the country that artwork was made? Is there something going on personally with the artist in relation to the theme? So, we need to think about context, and that was the first week that we did. I think it's week 2, the PowerPoint on Moodle. And then the last thing is we need to be assessed on how well we communicate our judgments. And so this is where we prove our point and how well we give evidence to prove our point. We can't just give our opinion at the end and go, I think this artwork's the best. We need to tell them why, and we're being assessed on the why part. And the only reason we can give any evidence is by talking about the artwork and referring back to it. Okay? So, we've got an hour, pull that slide back up again, we've got an hour to finish up our research, and then I'm going to give you a time check, and we're going to have an hour to start making those notes. Make sure these notes work for you. Nobody else is going to use them. It doesn't matter if they don't make sense to them, it matters that they make sense to you. Okay? After your solar is finished this week, you need to email me all of these notes. Even if it's not a day that I usually work, I'll pick the emails up. Okay? Then after Christmas, we'll do the exam. So our first session back after Christmas will be the first 2 hours of our 3.5 hour exam. We'll get given the Part B paper. You'll find out who the artist is, the new artist that we don't know about. You'll find out which artwork you've got to write about, and we'll start writing. You'll finish that in your solar session, and then you'll email it to me. And so our first week back after Christmas will be exam, and then we'll do some recaps, some more practice, some more filling in the gaps where things maybe went wrong. I'll then give you your feedback for your mark and some pointers and personal guidance so that you know what you specifically need to work on. And then we'll be starting the actual exam. So we've still got loads of prep time to go to fill in any gaps where you feel like you're not super confident. So don't worry, just do your best. This is just a practice. Okay?